We believe that our expertise in human resources is partnered with the expertise of our clients, that they are actually experts in their own organization.
Welcome to the BigTime Podcast, where we have honest conversations with industry professionals who have advice that's right for you.
In this edition of BigTime Podcast, Tanya Neitzert joins us to tell the story of how she came to acquire Boreala Management, an HR consulting firm with two other partners, scaling it to 20 people, and the operational philosophy that has led them to help Indigenous peoples, nonprofits, and small to mid-sized businesses thrive. Welcome to the BigTime Podcast. I'm your host, Alexander. Today, I'm joined by my guest, Tanya Neitzert, who's based in Montreal, Canada, partner at Boreala Management. Welcome, Tanya. Good to have you on.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here.
Now, Boreala Management specializes in organizational effectiveness. Your typical clients that you work with are nonprofits, Indigenous organizations, small, mid-sized businesses that don't have a strong HR or management team. And I'm fascinated to learn a bit more about especially the Indigenous organizations that you've started to focus on. But I'd love to hear your story, Tanya. Take me back of before you became a partner in Boreala Management. What was that process like? Did you just already knew that one day you wanted to be able to run your own firm?
Absolutely. So I think I've always been that kind of person who is quite motivated and interested in running things, whatever those things might be. So my career generally was in human resources management. So prior to joining Boreala, I had been, the head of human resources in various organizations, and wanted to switch into consulting because consulting is just a fascinating field where you get to touch a lot of projects, very strategic. At Boreala, I joined as a consultant and really enjoyed the clients that I was working with, and was also on the management team there. And at a certain point,
that you joined, right?
Yeah, 2016 exactly. And at a certain point, the former owner decided to move on, and so three of us decided to acquire the firm. And from that point on, we've been three co-owners of Boreala Management. Yeah.
Now, this focus on Indigenous organizations, was that already happening like back in when you joined 2016, or yeah. How did the focus originate of helping these nonprofits and Indigenous organizations?
So the Indigenous clients, it's really interesting because I guess before I joined, some relationships had been developed, some projects had been run, and it was more our style that resonated well with our Indigenous clients. So as a firm,
I don't mind asking. I'm curious because you already said our
this
style.
Is it. It is our style. So we don't claim to be specialists. We don't, the consultants we work with that are employed by us are not necessarily experts in First Nations or, Indigenous government structures or anything like that. It's that our mission is to build sustainability in our organizations and to build capacity. So we believe that our expertise in human resources is partnered with the expertise of our clients, that they are actually experts in their own organization. And then together we build a solution that is sustainable, that builds capacity. And this resonates because I think a lot of consultants come in as the experts, but as only the experts. So we are the experts, whereas we truly partner with our clients. We really believe they are the experts, actually. And then we bring an expertise in certain areas, but we bring solutions that take into account their reality and their context. And we're highly, consultants are consultative. I get that that's typical, but we really listen and understand the perspectives. And again, this just tends to resonate. So through word of mouth, we've just continued to have a lot of clients that are within Indigenous organizations of various types.
When you're hiring your consultants and trying to build your team in the past, are there any lessons learned? Maybe did you bring on someone and you're like, wow, this wasn't a good fit, and any takeaways from that?
There's of course, there are people who, don't work out for whatever reason. And lessons learned, I mean, well, the skills that we look for are, they're the transferable skills. So less about the actual things you've done and more about the competencies, if you can say it like that. So, being analytical or looking for solid solutions or really strong teamwork, but also our team is very inclusive. And so we we involve several people in the process of hiring to ensure that there's a team fit, and team fit being one of big openness. Like we're trying to be very, diverse and looking for various viewpoints. So I don't know if that really answers anything. I think our goal is always to have we have a lot of really sharp and good team players, I think is what we really look for, and motivated and who are interested in the type of clients we work with.
How big is the team today?
We're about 20 people.
20 people. And have you seen a difference going from maybe 5 or 10 people going to 20 and the pros and cons of having that larger team?
Well, the pros of having a larger team are that we can deliver more projects. I mean, obviously, the more people we have, the more revenue we can make. It also gives us a great deal of flexibility in terms of being able to have different skills. So even though maybe our team is all able to deliver, I talked about project management. So maybe everybody can do project management in the team because we have a model and we have a structure and tools. But certainly you'll see one person is really, really strong for whatever reason in that area. And so, we're able, with a bigger team, we're able to find those more diverse resources who can do different things. And it also enables us to be more agile at a point when all of a sudden we get 5 new projects that, sometimes we're in a sales cycle and, we know they're coming, but other times all of a sudden, the phone rings, we have 5 new projects all of a sudden. And, the bigger team, you can be more agile. Now, the downside to having the bigger team, not that 20 people is that big of a team, of course, but compared to 5 is that if somehow there's a downturn, all of a sudden, the beginning of COVID, for example, when all of a sudden, many key projects went quite dormant because, people shut their offices and so on. All of a sudden we have to deal with all those resources and find them, not only pay them, which is of course a challenge, but find them work, keep them busy, make sure that they're motivated. So that was, at the beginning of COVID, I think that was a challenge for sure.
You mentioned during COVID, and it's nice that you can see hours and people are engaged in doing things. And this can play a role because of knowing how the team is working together. Okay, that's one way. How else, though, have you been able to keep your consultants, your employees, your team engaged and on point?
Yeah, during COVID specifically or just generally?
Just in general, but you can include what maybe the things you've done this past year that you might even continue doing beyond COVID.
Yeah, so a few things that we have done, and I give great credit actually to my colleagues in this to focus on. I'm the one who tends to focus on projects and work and billables. That's me, and other colleagues are. It's not to suggest that I don't believe in the importance of engagement. It's just that's where my focus area is, and my colleagues do find ways to really support the team. And so some examples of the things that we do. So we have a Monday meeting, a scrum, where we talk about what's going on in the week. So first of all, just to connect at that point, this is really important, right? Is to make sure that we're all connected and who's doing what and sharing the information and making sure that Joe, who's doing one project, and Tina, who's doing another, both know that they're both doing a similar project and they can connect to. So that's one thing. But we do spend some time actually asking each other how your weekend was and so on, which is, a bit of a chit chat. But that chit chat seems to be quite a way for people to connect. So we find that connecting is important. We also have a Thursday meeting, which is entirely meant to be more social and connecting with some updates, organizational updates and so on. But it's a bit about keeping the team engaged and having a bit of fun. So we do things like a Kahoot, lots of organizations do a Kahoot or other quizzes, or last week they did yoga. So we have a team, a social committee we call Get Ensemble, well, French and English there.
Wait, you did yoga
So
together?
we did yoga together online. Well, I wasn't there; I was away. But we did another one about a month ago that was like a HIIT training, and that was awesome. Yeah. So they have different themes, and so we just really focus. We give the team some latitude to organize these things, and so they do. But I think the biggest part of it is that we really encourage like open dialogue. We really encourage the fact that we trust the team to get their work done. And so it's okay to have these 30-minute moments of just, fun each week. These are some things. We do team meetings and we have, a barbecue planned. We're excited because we're going to get to see them live again and different types of activities throughout the year. But I think also another thing that we believe strongly keeps the team engaged is consistent messages, strong communications, transparency. So we try to be very upfront with people, again, about the return to work, for example. We, as soon as we became aware of when we were going to be able to go back, we kind of informed the team, even if all decisions weren't made, just to keep them on, aware instead of kind of finalizing everything and then sharing. So these are some ways that we think are very helpful to keep the team engaged.
If you think the past year or so, where have you found the best use of your time in growing the business?
Certainly in developing initial client relationship, I think that's something that, so whereas, in our three partnership, I think Lindsay is definitely going to be the one who figures out where to target and the strategic, or, who are we going to, where is the best market for us? Whereas I think, and I think all of us are good at the client relationships, by the way, but I think that's one thing that that I find that I do well is to connect with clients and hear what their needs really are and just build a relationship. But also I think where I've been putting my time lately is in looking at how can we improve the efficiency of the products that we sell to our clients. So what kind of tools and standardized approaches can we put in place so that we're actually training the team to deliver products in the same way, but in a more efficient way. So this is where I'm trying to put my efforts now. It's more in that area than in the actual specific client work. So building the relationships, yes, but then ensuring the team has all the tools that they need to deliver their products in a way that really we don't reinvent the wheel each time, if you know what I mean.
You were mentioning, Tanya, how you've been able to take a step back now that you have more of a larger team and that they're able to play more of an active role doing the face-to-face consulting with the client. How, from this higher perspective, how do you know when something isn't right, though? What indicators do you have if a project is going wrong, and how do you have that visibility if you're a little bit higher up from it?
So this is an awesome question. So we did that. This was something that that took a while also to put in place, because on the one hand we want to have that visibility, and on the other hand we don't want to stomp on someone's creativity and independence and so on, right? So what we did is we put together kind of a project governance that would include. Most projects would have one of the partners being on the project team. So even if we're not directly involved in the client meetings and so on. And so we put, we discuss at the beginning of every project, where are we going to be involved? So who's going to do the peer review of this project, and who's going to be involved? At which point is who going to be involved in say a weekly meeting or bi-weekly meeting, monthly meeting, whatever it is, review of the deliverables, review of the project plan, whatever we agree to as the team. And that will depend on the resources that we have, the nature of the project. Some projects are super easy and don't really require any oversight on that level. But something that we do that I think is the most obvious of where a project goes wrong is when the client doesn't communicate as much with us anymore. maybe is feeling a little bit, that to me, this is the sign, is when a client that has been working with you significantly, of course, there's a project ends, and of course, then it's going to be over. And sometimes they're very satisfied or they don't have need. But sometimes in the middle of the project, the client maybe is a little less communicative. This is a little sign to me that's when,
that's your red flag. If you're seeing communication drop, then you're like, okay, something might be up, especially if it's in the middle of the project.
Yeah, exactly.
So when that happens, what do you do to address that challenge?
Well, and this goes back to your question before about if I'm less involved and I see it less, if I'm more involved and I see it more. I mean, the thing is to be agile and to try to not use a standard solution. It's like, maybe it makes a lot of sense. Client, got really big. We have that a lot, right? Client has a need and then they get extremely busy and then they just can't answer anymore. And so you can't, I can't, over assume something just because they don't respond, but we can, just do a gentle reach out, sort of see where things are going, try different people. Sometimes that works, because sometimes there isn't a fit between the consultant and the client as well. That does happen. So, we can try a different person can do reach out, whether it's an analyst or is someone else in the project team, to do some gentle kind of nudge. And we also have to trust overall that, even if people aren't always, you can't have 100% satisfaction rate, but we can get it hopefully as close to that as possible. But knowing that sometimes got to trust that it'll work out.
What makes you the proudest of your firm?
I absolutely will say that the team itself, and that is something that I wouldn't, we have such a great team right at this very moment. And that's been evolving over the last, we've always had a great team. When I joined in 2016, it was a great team and it always has been, but it never gelled quite as much as it has gelled right now. And I think the people that we have, it's fun to work every day. It's fun. I love being in internal meetings with the team and finding out their thinking behind a certain project. And I think that we're really collaborative. We really look to each other to, to make the product or the project that we're working on really successful. And I find that part really fun. So that's great. And of course, I'm really proud of the fact that, my partners and I have built what I feel is a very strong business, great business model. We've accomplished so much in a year and a half with COVID, working from home. We used to travel constantly. I haven't traveled in a year and a half. And despite all of that, we've still expanded our footprint and run a business, which is really fun and cool.
It is. That's powerful. Powerful, very much. Thank you so much, Tanya, for your time in being able to share just a little bit of this journey that you've been on and where you guys are headed. Thanks so much.
Well, it was a pleasure. It was really fun, actually, and I hope you have a great day.
And we'll see you all on the next episode of the BigTime Podcast.
For more info, go to podcasts.bigtime.net and be sure to subscribe to the BigTime Podcast to get notified when our next episode goes live.